Joining us now is Ken Newburger, the Executive Director of the Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association. Ken, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me back. It's good to be here.
All right, so lots of work has been done fine-tuning, tweaking this legislation, as my friend Representative Lee Yancey, who's run point on this deal from the House side, has said tweaking. And so you've just shared with me off the air, you've actually read the latest version of it, right?
It was a long read, but yes, I have read it.
200-plus pages.
About 270 or so.
Which is incredibly long for a state measure. We normally don't see anything that long.
Yeah, and it's really about only 90 or 100 pages of actual programmatic structure, and then it's a lot of retooling different statutes in our law. I think they even have some more things they need to pull in to override as this new program is going to create problems in the other law. You know, you have to make things legal for patients. Yeah, so what happens there, you end up pulling in a lot of text from existing law that has to get amended and scratch this and, add that and so forth. So, that does tend to increase the size, so that's fair enough. But nonetheless, so you've taken a look at it. What do you think at this point? Are you guys pleased with it? Yes. I mean, we really like the first draft. We think it's only gotten better. You know, this is the benefit of the legislative process, is when you have more people coming to the table to talk about what should and shouldn't be in the bill, it just continues to improve over time. So I really like the bill in its current state. Well, what are you hearing from those that are integral in getting it passed, such as the leaders of the respective chambers and then the governor himself? Have you got any feedback there? You know, I've talked to the leaders, the people who have been running point on this, Representative Yancey and Senator Blackwell, a lot. Yep. They seem to think that the bill is getting stronger over time, and everybody in their chambers are really on board. The current iteration, I think, has been sent to the governor. I don't really know what his reception has been, but he said, he wants to call a session, so we're waiting to hear his decision. Okay. Well, the last I heard from the governor, he had some concerns about the quantity. Mm-hmm. And so there were some adjustments made to that, where they're not available that a patient could actually buy under the program. Yeah, I think in the most recent bill, it hasn't been changed. I know they're kind of going back and forth on how much they think patients should have, and people have asked me, Ken, what do you think about how much patients should have? I said, well, they should have more than zero, which is what they have right now. So getting it passed is really the most important thing to me. Okay. Well, I know he had some concerns about that. He had some concerns about law enforcement's involvement and what their role and scope of authority would be with respect to this. That was another concern. And then I also understand he had some concern about the program that one would, complete to become a bud tender, I think is the term. Did I say that right? In some states, that's the term. Some states, it's a cannabis pharmacist. I mean, they got different names everywhere. We just call them dispensary workers. Okay. At least that's what I call them. And I think they're going to raise. They had, I think, 8 hours. 8 hours, yeah. And I think it's going to be significantly higher in the long term. I was talking with someone who's a big patient advocate, and they said, we'd be totally in favor of making sure that dispensary workers have 30, 40 hours of training before they start interacting, because it is a very important part of the process when a patient goes and interacts with a dispensary worker, because they need to be talking about, what are the products, how do they actually help people with my condition, what is the history that we understand of cannabis and how it impacts this debilitating condition, so that way they can make the best decisions for themselves. I got you. So, all right, then what's your gut feel? Are we going to get a special session or not? I'm an optimist, and the governor has said that if we have a deal, he wants to call a session. I think we're pretty much there, and I think we're going to have one, but only one person can tell now, and we're going to be finding out real soon, I think. Do you feel like that law enforcement's concerns have been addressed in the latest iteration? I can't speak for law enforcement. I hope they have. I think that some of their concerns that they've raised in the past couple of weeks have been just misintent by the legislature. I think, I heard that, having a card would prohibit, something from happening with law enforcement. And that wasn't the intent. The thing was that they wanted to make sure that card holders had protection to have what they're legally allowed to have. And if they have more than they're legally allowed to have, and they're breaking the law. So that's something where law enforcement would come in, and I hope that's addressed at least in the future.
I got you. All right. Well, so kind of running out of time, aren't we? For a special session.
Yeah. There are 365 days in the year. If we have a special session, any of those days remaining, we're not out of time. But if not, we're going to have – this is going to pass one way or the other, I think.
Yeah, it seems like it. So what about the industry? I know that's obviously who you represent. Right. You're in touch with a lot of the players in the industry. Some of those have already mobilized assets, and they're all poised and ready to go. How does this impact them, the delay?
The delay, it's millions of dollars of loss. That's what it is. I mean, we are literally looking at people who they could have built a building for, $2 million 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And, some people attribute it to national mismanagement. Some people just attribute it to COVID. But there has been a giant supply chain breakdown, and that is hurting their ability to buy steel, to buy any raw materials they need to build. So things are now increasing in cost to them, and it is hurting their ability to move forward.
Have there been any that, to your knowledge, that have just said we're not going to wait around anymore? We're out. We're not interested in the state.
Yeah, there have been a few people. I mean, it's not that they're moving to other states. They're Mississippians who had allocated $8 million, $9 million to start a facility, and they said, now that this is so far gone, we can't continue paying staff. We can't afford to actually build that we want. There's no downsizing for us. We're just going to go back to our lives and, go hunt or something. Yeah. I mean, it's really sad to see the amount of businesses that are just pulling out.
Who formed the association?
I did.
You did yourself?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, after running the campaign, I had met a lot of people who wanted to be involved, and I went to, 4 or 5 of them and say, I'd like to start this association and pull everybody together. And they said, let's do it.
Are you considering some sort of participation in the industry as well from a business perspective?
No, I'll be the executive director. And that's it.
Okay. And I assume you have a board?
Yes. Our board is very small. It's currently we had 3 members. One just went off to pursue something else. Currently, Kelly Williams of Kelly's Green and Cliff Osmond of Steep Hill, Mississippi.
Okay.
They're on our board, and hopefully we're adding a couple more board members throughout the month of November.
And are they? Do they have business interest? Typically, that's the way that would work from an association, of like organizations, companies. All right. So, and are they Mississippians?
Both of them, yes. Okay. That's actually a requirement to be on our board. You have to be a Mississippian.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So at this point, everybody's just sitting back and waiting for something to happen.
Yes. I mean, I think the current bill, like I said, is in the governor's hands. I don't know, what changes he might want to see or what he might want to do, whether he wants to just call a session outright. But I think that's where things are right now. Yeah,
and if it doesn't get called, you're confident that it'll be deliberated pretty quickly and on the floor when they get in session in January.
I think so. The session, usually they deliberate for 3 months. We've been talking about this bill for 5.
Yeah.
If it goes to January, it'll be 7. I think that's a lot of deliberation. I think they'll be ready to do it very quickly.
Have you heard any concerns or pushback from folks that have, I should say, concerns about the distance that a dispensary can be located from a church, a school, et cetera?
I've heard some concerns. I know in the first iteration of the bill, it was 1,000 feet door to door. That was workable. There's a lot of space. There's not a whole lot of space not near a church. We're a very Christian state. I'm very
sure.
I praise God for that. But if it gets too tight, it does box out a lot of access to patients.
And there has to be separation between dispensaries as well. Is that correct? So that there's not a concentration of them.
We don't need these all over the place.
I understand. Yeah, like what happened in Oklahoma.
Right.
As
and
an
that's
example.
Just way too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our bill doesn't allow that.
Right.
Prohibits that. Yeah. Ken, always a pleasure having you on. Appreciate it, and we'll stay in touch and see what happens here.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Ken Newburger, the executive director of the Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association, has been our guest here on Midday. Stay with us. We got more talk and some foreigner tickets to give away. We'll be right back.